There's a million and one ways to learn about the plants. Just keep open.
Hello and welcome back to the Herbal Skillshare Marathon. In this session, we are going to be hearing from Carol Little, who is a long-time Herbal Circle member and someone who has been in the field of herbalism for decades. In this time, she has really mastered the skill of learning about herbs, studying and being able to retain that information. Not only that, but applying that information by writing ebooks and putting that information into herbal programs and the other memberships and such that she offers. So I hope in this session you'll be able to learn the skill of being able to take that herbal information and really retain it and utilize it as you go forward in your herbal path. So I will let you take it from here, Carol.
Hi, good day everybody. I'm Carol Little. I am a registered herbalist in Toronto, Canada. I've been a member of this Herbal Circle for a couple of years now and enjoy our discussions so much. I've learned so much during that time. In any event, today Yolanda asked me if I would share some ideas about how to study herbs. This is of course a big topic. I can really only speak from my own experience and share ideas that I've picked up along the way, and I hope that'll be helpful to you. I guess my initial moment I always remember very fondly. I was out for a weed walk, as we call them, and the walk led us through lots of wonderful areas, and at one point we went through a boggy area, and of course that comes along with our friend the mosquito. And I have always had a bit of a mosquito magnet situation going on, so inevitably I was bitten a few times. So I carried on, no problem, but the leader of the herb walk, she noticed scratching away on my arms, and she, I guess, thought, now I realize, of a teaching moment, and dropped down on one knee, picked something quickly, handed it to me, suggested I stick it in my mouth and chew it, which was, of course, pardon. And now we know, or at least I know, possibly you know, that that is the beginning of the spit poultice with plantain, Plantago major, and this was all new to me. Anyway, I stuck it in my mouth and chomped away, and then she said, okay, now spit that out on your hand. Pardon? The rest is history in my life, because I slapped it on the bites one at a time, and I wouldn't say it was instant, but very, very quickly there was a relief of the itching and irritation. This may seem like a very silly little story, and it is, but it's my story, and it's the story of the moment that I thought, wow, what just happened there, and how exciting was that, and feelings of empowerment and self-reliance, and imagine knowing more. Imagine how this whole world is just waiting for me, and so it is, and it continues to. This is a story from about 30 years ago, and I've really never stopped learning, and I think that's part of the joy of studying our plant friends, really, is that we never do stop learning. That was my moment where I thought, okay, I have to learn more, I have to learn more. Back then there was no internet, or at least it was just starting up. There were certainly no online schools. There were very few places to go and learn about herbs. I found myself haunting the local bookstores and buying everything I could find, and at the time they were pretty general surface kinds of things, but I devoured them and loved reading them, and always seemed to have one in hand. Then I found some local folks, and one in particular, Heather Bacasius, is a local Ontario herbalist, and I started going up to her retreat center and doing wonderful weekend events. Eventually I wanted more. Of course, one wants more, and the floodgates have opened. So I went to study with Rosemary Gladstar and Sage Mountain, and the entire world of the magic of it all opened up from there as well. So I would just say to you, if you are someone asking how to study herbs or how to proceed along your path, there are several questions. What do you want to do with this information? Is this a home herbalist situation, a community herbalist? Perhaps share ideas with friends and family, and that's it. Are you thinking, oh, that's never mind that, I need to be in a clinic and have clients coming in? No, I want to teach. No, I'm not interested in the herbs outside the back door, which is my thing, by the way. Maybe you're fascinated with TCM, the Chinese system, traditional Chinese medicine, or Ayurveda, or maybe the call of our First Nations people and the way they use and embrace our plant friends. Maybe that's your way. Whichever way it is, and I haven't named them all, of course, there are so many ways to then approach. And if you think about that, what lights you up? What kinds of things do you find most interesting? Are you a science nerd? Do you want to learn about the chemistry of it all and why things work the way they do? So, of course, times have changed. And with the abundance of online options, we can find seemingly unlimited ways to study and opportunities. Happily, many places worldwide still have local groups, local herb societies, local herb associations, gardening groups. This can all be pretty overwhelming, but I do think that starting locally is a great option for us wanting to learn how to study herbs. And of course, there's the, maybe you want to be a clinician, maybe you don't. Maybe your interest is more botanical skincare or making herbal edibles, goodies, vinegars, lavender cookies. Pick one of billions, it seems, of options. Whatever that is, often a local authority is also a good idea to check in about the do's and don'ts and rules associated with where you live. I think we've established that the world of herbs is a wide, wide world. I hope that you'll agree that with all of these subtopics, the task of learning about herbs, or the project that you find yourself in, can be daunting for sure. It's a process though, and I personally have started in one spot and evolved and moved and done and enjoyed it all. Pardon me, there's a deer fly coming to the party. So after studying with Rosemary, I came back to Toronto, and I figured at the time that I wanted to be a part of a way to help people in a public setting. So whether that was actual clinic per se or private practice, I wasn't sure. But I quickly discovered that in my province, Ontario, we were required to have some more education. So that's fine. This was, again, still really early days in the 90s, and yet there were some possibilities, and I was thrilled to discover Michael Vertoli and the Living Earth School of Herbalism. Again, I am all about traditional herbalism, the herbalism that one steps out the back door, so it's going to be different depending upon where you live, what your local herbs will be, but in my mind this is what we would call traditional Western herbalism. So it's Western in its way, and a focus is on traditional ways and local plants especially. So of course we learn from our teachers, and every one of them has a different perspective, and that's, I guess, the exciting part. I always remember Rosemary saying to me, I was at Green Nations many, many years ago. This is a wonderful herb event, New York State. And I said, I'm so confused. I just went to a class with, this teacher, and she said this. Then I went to another class because it was a topic I was interested in, and that teacher had another idea, and she said, well, that's the beauty of it. You take it in, and you think about it, and you mull it over, and then you go out and experience it for yourself, and then you make your decision. So that has always stayed with me. So Michael Bertoli is equally as amazing and wonderful as Rosemary in his own way. I secretly call him the Einstein of herbalism. Definitely a different approach, and yet all in sync in its own way. And that was a 5-year course, and I loved every minute of those classes. I have to say, I miss them to this day. So that's me. So those were my 2 formal, if you will, quote, education areas. I knew I wanted to study and learn about local herbs. That I already knew. I knew that I wanted to help people, so we had clinic at the Living Earth School, and I got my clinic hours that were required by my province, and so that was handled. And then what? So through the years, I've made products, probably 150 plus products. I've gone to markets. I've had a brick and mortar store. I've taught classes in that store and at many venues in my neighborhood since then. And truthfully, it's all been absolutely wonderful. So each of us is going to find our own way. And each of us is going to find our teachers. And our teachers will appear to us, I feel, as we need them. That's certainly been my case. That's been my experience. Over the years at different herbal events, and there must be hundreds and hundreds of other teachers I've learned from who I have either totally loved and adored or simply respected and not really connected with. And that's the same in life, right? I mean, we're not going to find everyone is going to be exactly sharing something that reaches us, however you want to put that. So how do we study herbalism once we've figured out what it is that we want to do and how we want to be in the world? Many of us learn and create our own materia medicas using either the herb families, or I'm sure there's many ways to do it. I always was fond of physiology as a topic, the body's physiology, and so learning the body systems. And so, for example, digestive system, nervous system, etc. And in this way, putting together herbal groups of herbs that would conceivably work together or in different ways as a team to help a particular body system. So I'm sure that most of you know, but if you don't, herbal monographs are a wonderful way to pull together lots of information about a specific herb. If you're not familiar with herbal monographs, you'll want to look that up. There'll be like a number of different sources for these. The German monographs, certainly the German Commission monographs, and then there's some newer sources for monographs, but just watch where you're picking up this information. In any case, depending upon your particular interest, there will be parts of the monograph that may be more interesting. Maybe you're a pharmacist or ex-pharmacist or someone in the medical field already, and you're fascinated by the way the constituents come together in a herb to work to totally replace a drug, perhaps, or some other such wonderful thing, and so that may be your interest. Someone else, possibly into botanical skincare, is not going to maybe care about all of the different parts of the monograph, and that's fine too. It just depends on how you are personally wanting to learn and what interests you. And I think that's part of how to retain information, is to decide over time the things that are most fascinating to you, and then you will remember these things. I do. Susan Weed wise woman herbalist, said years ago, and I've never forgotten, that we should sit with a plant through its entire cycle, possibly for a year, and learn all about the plant's spirit and personality. And this is a wonderful and very respectful comment, and certainly very inspiring. In today's modern world, unfortunately, many of us will not sit with a plant for a year, but the idea, if you will, of getting to know a plant, watching it through its life cycle, is it an annual, biennial, perennial, how does it flower, when does it flower, all the different intricacies of the plant, not just in, quote, book learning, not just on the internet, not simply in a classroom. I remember years ago being so fascinated by John Redden, who's a wonderful, wonderful herbalist here in Ontario who has passed. He used to teach an amazing and well-respected class at our naturopathic college in Toronto, and I always marveled at and was not surprised at how many of the students were absolutely thrilled, because all they knew of the herb was how to dispense it and what it went with in a capsule, etc., and none of the actual let's go out for a walk in the woods and find this plant. This is important. So although this might not be practical, the idea of long visits with our plant friend, I think it's really important to keep that in mind, the full picture, if you will. So that brings me to the thought that many of us are online a lot more than maybe we want to be, but we are spending a lot of time, and this is also how we get possibly a lot of our information. I think it's very important to reiterate here that the trusted sources that you receive your information from are more important than ever when we're dealing with this particular topic. So we've talked about who are your teachers, who have you studied with, what kinds of herbal work are you interested in, what is your focus, and who are the people that you are learning from and learning with, and how do you find them? So have they written books? Do you have these books? Do you have access to their website? Are they an educational institution? Can you reach out and find their perspective on a particular plant? All of these things are important, and more important, as I said, to me than ever, because there's a lot of incorrect information and a lot of information that's just been sponsored on Google and is there, and really we need to pay attention to this, because we do want to have the best possible understanding of the plant. When we all went through the experience of the pandemic in the last few years, this has been different for each of us, of course. I personally found it difficult, and I missed our herbal gatherings, as many of us, I'm sure, did. And I wrote some books because I needed to keep sane, and that was very fun, and ebooks. And also I formed an online group, and in this group, it's called Herb Gals, we discuss one herb per month. Now, this isn't the one herb per year that I mentioned earlier, but it is still quite a beautiful deep dive into a plant, a specific plant friend, and we do have a lot of fun with this. And the reason that I've mentioned the physiology idea and what your actual passion is in regards to the plants, is there something in specifics, or are you a generalist? Do you just want to learn for yourself, for self-reliance, for your family, to save money, like whatever these reasons are, or you want to become a clinician, or etc. All of these wonderful aspirations and ideas can be heightened or supported, for lack of a better word, by sitting around the campfire, so to speak, and having good conversations with people. I have found the absolute joy of the plants transmits so beautifully when we are speaking to each other about the in my case, the common names, so that we can make sure we're all talking about the same plant, the special constituents that each plant has, the part of the plant, of course, that you find these in, and where and how you would use that, the kinds of preparations that you would make, and how to make them, obviously, and also when we use this herb and how in herbal practice. So there's all of that, plus the idea of how do we use the herb in the kitchen, possibly? How do we infuse oils and make recipes and create botanical skincare products? How do we practically use this herb in all of its ways? And of course, we'll never get to the bottom of every herb, and that's part of the mystery and the whole joy of it. I'm sure that's why Rosemary calls her life-changing course the science and art of herbalism, because there's so much, and we are never finished learning. Anybody that's, quote, caught the bug of being a herbalist, or are just enjoying being an herbal enthusiast, or wherever you're coming from, you know what I mean. We just never really have enough, and yet the plants will present themselves to us, and the plants that we need to study and possibly learn more and more about, I think, present themselves to us. We haven't studied mullein in my group yet, but possibly we should. A mullein plant has shown up outside my door, just out of nowhere. There she is, and every day I say hello, and every day I pick her little flowers, and I'm creating a remedy with that. But you know, mullein isn't the only one. Motherwort has shown up. I have probably 12 motherwort plants just out of the blue, allegedly, outside my door at home, and there's a message there. The plants are alive and well and wanting to share with us. So it's not just about book learning and computer surfing, right? There's so much more to it than that. So I hope that some of these ideas have been helpful. I have a website, studiobotanica.com, and on there I do have some of my favorite authors and herbal authors and books and reference ideas, if that would be helpful for you. Otherwise, you can certainly reach out if you'd like any ideas, and I am findable obviously on the Herbal Entrepreneur group. Wherever you are and however it is that you are involved, if you've fallen head over heels with this beautiful work, welcome, and we'll see you along the path. If you're just learning and you're at the beginning stages, welcome along. It is a transformative and very moving emotional and spiritual experience for each of us in our own way. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is there's 1,000,001 ways to learn about the plants. Just keep open and make sure you watch to be as authentic as possible, finding your own way and in your path.